I cannot mess this up. I have to get this right. It has to be perfect. Do you ever say things like this to yourself? Well, there's a term for this kind of thinking. These are called irrational beliefs. Today, in this video, we're diving into the work of Dr. Albert Ellis. He's the founder of Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, or REBT, and this is an early form of cognitive behavior therapy, or CBT. Dr. Ellis's ideas can be really helpful if you find yourself constantly putting pressure on yourself, or having high demands of yourself or others, or just feeling stuck. Dr. Ellis defined the ABC model, and that model is a way of helping us understand the chain between events, our beliefs about those events, and the emotional and behavioral consequences of those beliefs. If you haven't watched it already, I have another video where I talk about the ABC model in more detail, because in this video, we're focusing on the B, or the beliefs. Ellis defined irrational beliefs as unrealistic, rigid ways of thinking that can lead to unnecessary emotional pain. Feelings like anxiety, guilt, shame, and frustration. These thoughts feel true in the moment, but they are distortions. And Ellis grouped these types of thoughts into 4 main categories. Category 1 is demandingness. This is represented by the shoulds, the musts, and the have-tos. Examples include, I should get everything right, or I must always get things right, or if they really cared about me, they should know how I feel. But in reality, these are not rules. These are really preferences, right? And when we turn these into rules, this puts unnecessary pressure on us and on other people. In fact, Ellis said there are no musts, only wants. Category number 2 is awfulizing or catastrophizing. This is when we see things as awful, terrible, and horrible. So we might think to ourselves, oh, if that happens, I just won't be able to stand it. I can't handle it. It would be terrible. But in reality, would it actually be that awful, or would it just be uncomfortable or inconvenient? So if we can downgrade something that we think is awful to unpleasant, then that changes everything. Category number 3 is low frustration tolerance. This is when we tell ourselves that we just can't stand something, whether it's a criticism or a mistake or something that somebody has said or done to us, when we feel like we just can't bear it. But Ellis teaches that we are stronger than we think, that when we say things like this to ourselves, we're really convincing ourselves that we're too fragile, when in reality, we can handle more than we give ourselves credit for. Category number 4 is global ratings of worth. This is when we judge ourselves or we judge other people by just one action or one characteristic. So if we say to ourselves, I failed at this, so I am a failure. Or if we say about someone else, they treated me unfairly, so they are a terrible person. In reality, people are complex. You are complex. So it takes more than just one moment to define who you are. But now that you know about these 4 irrational beliefs, what can you do about them? Well, Ellis extended the ABC model to include D, disputing. And that means that when you catch yourself having these kinds of thoughts, you can dispute them, or you can challenge them and change them. One way that you can do that is by asking yourself some questions. For example, you can ask, where's the evidence that proves that this thought is true? Another one is this thought helping me or harming me? Or is this the most kind and compassionate way that I could be thinking? So let's try an example. I must be productive every day. Really? Like, where did that rule come from? Who taught you that? How did you convince yourself of that? So maybe you can challenge that and change it to, I would prefer to be productive every day, but it's okay if I'm not. And when you do this, that helps relieve some of the guilt. You can even say to yourself, I don't have to feel guilty for taking a rest. It's okay if I want to take a break and if I don't produce something today. So, do you see the change there? Do you see the shift? That when we dispute the irrational belief, then that can lead to E, what Ellis called more effective emotional and behavioral consequences. So, in other words, if you change the way you think, you can change the way that you feel and the way that you act. So, if you start noticing the shoulds, oughts, must haves, can'ts, you can now shift and start to have more realistic expectations of yourself and others. And this will lead to relief. It will relieve stress, anxiety, frustration, guilt, and shame. So if this resonated with you, I hope you will give yourself the gift of slowing down, of taking the time to be curious about your thoughts, to catch yourself if you start being critical or demanding of yourself or others. And if you want to know more about how to make these kinds of mindset shifts, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.